Hi guys, and welcome back to ArchViz. In this video we will have a look on ChatGPT with integration to DALL-E, and we'll try to compare the two AI image generating AI tools and see which one is the better. And you might just stay until the end because I think I have some controversial conclusion to this video. First of all, if you jump into OpenAI, you can see under pricing, to be able to get ChatGPT 4.0, you have to have the Plus plan. The very important part about this is the DALL-E image generation integration in this package here, and that's $20 per month. So I've already played around a little bit. This is the interface of ChatGPT with integration with DALL-E. You can over here, there's a menu where you can have all your previous conversations with the ChatGPT. So the first thing I did is to just ask it a simple question. Make me an architectural interior rendered by Daniel Libeskind. We've been over the architect Daniel Libeskind before. It's not that I'm stuck in this Daniel Libeskind design. It's more so we have some comparisons. As we have already seen in MidJourney in previous videos, MidJourney really pushed concept development. Even with a simple prompt as this, it's absolutely amazing what MidJourney comes up with. So let's see what DALL-E or ChatGPT does with this. Okay, so I can help you create an architectural interior, blah, blah, blah. Also, is there any particular elements or themes you would like to include in the design? So I just write it's a university, and the specific view should be from the cafeteria. So ChatGPT has some context, and this is the two images it comes up with. It's just as in MidJourney, very, very fast. It's, I would say, about 60 seconds or maybe a little bit more. It feels very, very fast, and you can ask it to create more than two. I think that's the default. I didn't write anything specific up here, but you can obviously do that. And right away, the first thing that strikes me when I see these pictures in terms of concept development or idea generations for us architects, it is not as good as MidJourney. For example, this image here, you would never do something like this. This isn't architecture. It's maybe not even art, or if it is art, it's a very, very strange piece of art at that particular point. I would say it's not interesting. It's very expensive to do, and it doesn't have any function. These are not columns that are able to support a building or architecture in any way, and it's not well integrated to the room. I mean, this portion in the right-hand side and this stairs with some chairs and tables are interesting. That's fine. This is maybe just very generic, very, wouldn't say boring, but it's just a big floor with lots of tables. So I wasn't particularly impressed with this. We can close it up there. And this is the same problem, more or less. It's not an interesting room. It's very complicated and not very good. The ceiling here is also very strange, and I mean, this is not a good picture. So the second thing I tried with ChatGPT with integration of DALL-E was to ask the AI to upscale the picture. And I wanted to upscale the picture on the right. I think this was the best of these two. So I write, please upscale the one on the right. And I got this. It's not an upscale. It's a different view. It's something that we have talked about in MidJourney also, where you kind of struggle or battle the program a little bit. It's not as fluent as you might think. It's not doing what you're saying. It's not really understanding you. It's trying to interpret your prompt, and then it just makes something. And in this case, it's just not usable in any way. It's another image now, and it's still 1024 by 1024. Upscale the original picture on the right to, let's say, 4000 times 4000 pixels, because that's another thing with these image generators. The image resolution is, I would say, quite low. It's okay for very fast initial concept development ideas. It's fine. But when you move just the next step, which is to refine a design or zoom into a picture to see concepts in the picture, in a part of the picture, the AI image generators is not at that point yet. And later in the video, we will actually challenge that, because there have been some changes to MidJourney as of version 6.0. And we will take in this video also a look on the newest version, which is very interesting. Okay, so here I'm just asked Is it correct that I'm using DALL-E through ChatGPT now? Yeah, it is ready. Couldn't I just use DALL-E directly, or is it easier to use this way? It comes up with a long explanation of why the integration of ChatGPT 4.0 and DALL-E is a good thing. And I just ask it here, okay, so it's a conversational image tool now. And that's exactly what it is. That's the idea of ChatGPT's integration with DALL-E. And it feels that way. It's not so much prompting like in MidJourney, where we have this structure of prompting it with the picture size and style and architect and so forth. It's more like, you have some kind of conversation. That's one of the main differences between MidJourney and DALL-E. The other, as we will have a look on later on, is, I would say, the quality and the idea generation qualities. But one of the things that strikes me right away is that this is a very, very good idea to remove the prompting idea of operating a AI image generating tool and putting in a system where you have some kind of conversation with the AI, just as ChatGPT already is right now. Also, if you just speak to it, you don't have to type it down. You more or less just talk. You speak out your dream, and then it asks some questions about what function is it, interior and exterior, something like that. And then you say, yes, that's fine. And image aspect ratio should be 16:9, something like that. And then it starts delivering some images that you can use. The conversational idea in integration with ChatGPT and DALL-E is absolutely great. I think that's the way MidJourney also should walk. Or maybe it's okay that MidJourney has this and then ChatGPT and DALL-E has some other features or some other prominent and exciting ways to do it. And I think although it doesn't really deliver so far, it's still the way to do it. It just feels right. You don't struggle as much as to push this tool to get it in the direction that you want. So that's very, very freeing compared to MidJourney. So at least there, ChatGPT and DALL-E integration have a point over MidJourney. So I just wrote a long prompt. We have tried this long prompt here also in a previous video about concept development for architects using MidJourney. And I just wanted to see how does ChatGPT and DALL-E handles exactly the same approach in concept development. So I just write here, okay, I'm an architect. I got this architectural assignment, and then I just pasted our assignment from our university case study with the university campus. It's exactly the same as we did in MidJourney. And then please make me 3 iterations of an architectural exterior render that answers this assignment. So that's, as we already have spoken about, a really wild idea that you can have this real world competition and then just take a picture, have a bot translate it into text, and then just paste the text into ChatGPT with integration. And that's important, with integration to DALL-E, and then let it make some iterations based off that. That is very interesting and a very fast way to get very concrete and concise in your discussion about actual architecture, forms, materials, function. So this is what it comes up with. And so first of all, the thing that strikes me right away is the quality drop from MidJourney. This looks like something from, I would say, SimCity, something like that. And this also, so, this is stage 1, 2, 3, and then if you refine the SimCity building for the last level, this would be the final hospital or whatever, because I don't think it looks like a university campus. And I think the renders are not interesting. I think the concepts it is delivering here is nowhere near what MidJourney can do. It's not even on the same planet. On 1 to 5, if MidJourney is 5 in idea generation in forms of images, this would be a 1, maybe a 2. And it's really not that interesting. I think this is the best one, but it's very boxy. We've seen this kind of architectural style for 20 years now, and it's maybe realistic and quite cheap to make, but it's very, very boring, and it doesn't really enhance the cityscape as I see it, at least. So I just wrote, okay, it's a start. Make me 2 iterations made as though it was made by architect Daniel Liebeskind. This is the result. So it's getting a little bit better here. It's a little strange that it actually makes 3, but I guess it's 1 picture and then 1 picture, and 1 picture has 2 iterations, which is again a little strange, I would say. You have to hope for a more precise way to communicate with this tool. So these pictures are, again, not in any way comparable to what MidJourney can give to us. It is a little more contemporary, a little more modern. It is not in any way, shape, or form great architecture. It has this SimCity kind of looks to it. This is maybe the best, the most interesting, but I wasn't that impressed. Can I give you a photo of the real site or context so your generation is based in reality rather than in a fictional context? So exactly this question I ask here is a very, very important question in exactly these scenarios where we have an AI image generating tool and we have a concrete specific context and assignment. Can we in some way integrate that context, that assignment, and that room program into an AI image generator that helps us more precisely than just these generic pictures in a generic context with a generic room program with a somewhat generic concept design? And the answer is I can't analyze or incorporate details from real images directly, blah, blah, blah. So in the promo videos I saw with ChatGPT 4.0, where you have it on your phone with integration with the microphone and the camera, you can actually point the camera around. If you're blind, for example, you can use the camera with speakers in your ears to describe what it's seeing or get your taxi or something like that. I just love that feature. And there's all kinds of ways that you can ask ChatGPT to describe what they see and integrate an analysis of an actual real world context. And so it strikes me as a little strange that it's not integrated in the PC version, or it's not integrated yet, or at least you're not able to feed it with a, let's say, a JPEG of your context, just as we've tried in MidJourney, and it doesn't work yet, at least. So that's, I wouldn't say it's disappointing because it's very, very hard to do, I could imagine. But at least MidJourney has some functionality to be able to, take this image and blend it with, I don't know, this image, and then get a result that is a third iteration where it kind of looks at these two images and make an analysis and then combines them, and you got this third iteration. So there must be a way to program it so that it analyzes a picture, a real-time picture, and try to integrate some architectural idea in that exact context. That's very, very important for architects. If that's not possible, the idea generation tool isn't, I would say, pushing its maximum potential. And there is all kinds of ways that you can maybe ask an AI image generating tools to take into account the context on the right hand side, or mark a building and then say the context here is very important. Try to mimic or even contrast some elements in the context to give us a idea generation tool that apply to a specific assignment in a specific context. That is the head on the nail in the discussion about image generating tools and AI. The space between real usefulness and, I wouldn't say just fun, because idea generation is a large part of architectural profession, but to move in a direction where the AI image generating tools can integrate in a real world architectural setting is just the next step, I'm very, very sure. And there are some programs that does some of that, and it's possible that we can take a look on these tools in a later video. For example, I would say Chrome AI is maybe one of the more interesting AI tools that goes a little bit in that direction, also with some other features, but we can discuss that later on. But at least for now, it's not possible in ChatGPT integration with DALL-E to give it a picture of the real world context where the site is for our architectural assignment and make idea generations integrated into that picture, or taking that context into account when it idea generate. Then, for example, here, if you hover the text, you can see here there's a read aloud. If you click that, nothing happens. I just ask why it doesn't work, because it could be cool that, the tool can speak to you and you can speak to the tool. And that was exactly what the promo videos talked about. And it's not integrated yet. I just searched all kinds of sites and everyone has this problem. So it's just not integrated yet, but I'm sure it'll come. The other conversation I had with GPT, I just wanted to restart it in a way. So I just pasted the assignment once again. exactly the same, and we got this picture. So this is the first picture in DALL-E or in ChatGPT integration with DALL-E that actually I think is good. And I don't know why, because I did that before and we got these SimCity kind of graphics, and then all of a sudden it's this. So it's a little bit strange there. It's kind of the same feeling in MidJourney sometimes. You just write one prompt and it gives you absolutely amazing results. And then all of a sudden, if you type stylize 0, it's just a totally different level of images it comes up with. So it's kind of the same feel here, I would say, with ChatGPT 4.0 and with the integration of DALL-E. This is the first image which really strikes me as a good render, really interesting render actually. This is, I would say, usable. It's comparable to some of the images we've seen in MidJourney. So that's interesting, that's good. I was very happy to see this because the first session wasn't that impressive. I write here, okay, it's a start. So 1, it's too large, make it approximately 20,000 square meters. We had exactly the same problem in MidJourney with previous videos where we asked MidJourney to make a 20,000 square meters university campus, and it gave us these enormous kind of urban plans near to the Copenhagen harbor front, which was, I don't know, 100,000 or 200,000 square meters. And it's more or less the same here. I guess this is the complex down here, and so over here is not 20,000, it's much, much bigger. And the tower here, I would integrate it as you've already seen me do in Let's Make a University, and I would make it much more contemporary, where this is box architecture that more or less looks like residential integration with commerce in the first level here, but it is a good render. Yeah, so that's the same problem here. It's very difficult to interpret a strict architectural prompt about 20,000 square meters into a AI image generator and then make it understand that. It has no way to calculate it or have any idea about this house is maybe, as you can see here, the people are very small. So this is maybe, I don't know, 40 by 40 meters. So that's 1600 square meters times 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's already 6,400 square meters over here. So the whole thing is much larger. And I don't think language models can make calculations like that. Don't know how we can handle that. The best way I think of would be to give it an image that is somewhat in a reasonable size scale, and then say, with this as inspiration, make me something that looks like that in a new design or something like that, because it really is I would say, a quite striking problem with these image AI generators. They are kind of, detached from, I would say, conscious, obviously, but thinking or logic in a way. It's kind of like speaking to a very intelligent child with absolutely no experience, or it's hard to describe. It can make amazing images and it's still extremely dumb in some sense. But anyway, so my guess would be 1/3 of the size now. So I try to attack this problem by saying there's too much building mass. Can you make it 1/3 of the size? And to integrate the tower in the overall architecture, we've talked a little bit about that. But even if you look at all the towers in Copenhagen, these towers are more or less churches or very prominent historical buildings like the Parliament and so forth. And they are always integrated in a larger design where the tower or the spire is just the highest point of the building, just like a cathedral. But this solitary separate building, I don't like that much. And the third point was make it more contemporary, more like Daniel Libeskind. I think this is too boxed. That was exactly what I did here. And I think this is not interesting. Again, it doesn't change the architectural concept design any way or shape or form. I would say it's more or less the same. It does integrate the tower, if this was the tower idea, into a more Copenhagen city-like kind of design, but the building are too ordinary, make them more like Daniel Libeskind, so I try to push the tool here and it makes this, again, a large SimCity building upgraded to the last level. This is not very interesting as I see it, and not a very, I would say, a beautiful building in any way, shape or form. Then here I just tried some other things. What about the remove all humans command here? In MidJourney, you remember we have this dash and then no humans. And then you can remove all the humans from the picture. Can a chatbot do the same here? And it didn't do it. You could see here, there's a lot of people here. And then here is a little less. But again, it's a very, very intelligent child. But you cannot give it simple instructions and it won't just do them. So that's, again, a little bit annoying and a striking limit of this technology as it is right now. So, okay, so up here, you can see this is a QR code for this picture up here. So you can go up to the picture I thought was the best so far, and then I right click and then just create QR code for this image. That was exactly what I did here. So we get this image and you can see it up here. This is the reference for the QR code. So I wrote this image was the best, make something like this. And ChatGPT made this, which is very funny, at least with a huge dinosaur. I think it interprets this as, I don't know, something that it should integrate in this picture. But you can see the interface is a little bit off. It's not, it's not made for architecture, at least, but we knew that. But because there is, I guess that's a whole new discussion, because art and images and rendering and architecture, I don't think it's the most interesting market or sector for ChatGPT, OpenAI, and maybe in some degree MidJourney to attack. There is too few money in it. The investments to make these AI model function very, very well and well integrated in, let's say, architecture, it's just not profitable enough. There's not enough money in our sector to really push this technology to, let's say, shape the technology around the profession, for example, architecture. I saw some numbers. I won't come up with some numbers here because I haven't checked them, but the numbers of money invested into this, let's call it art or design, image generating technology, compared to what they are able to scrape out or get people to buy back, the difference is just absolutely off. There's huge investments in this and the payoff just isn't there yet. So one future scenario with this technology could be that the tech companies just focus on something else than architecture or art or image generating. The same with all these AI renderers. They are really not good enough. They can't compete in any way, shape or form with the very precise tools, CAD tools or 3D tools we have now, and the very, very strong render engine like Corona, V-Ray, or all the old school render engines. D5 and Unreal is also very interesting, and they can't compete with that in any way, shape or form. They are too precise and they are so well integrated as of for now. So a scenario could be that the sector isn't interesting enough for this technology with AI, idea generation, ChatGPT integration with DALL-E to make it extremely useful in architectural projects yet. Again, maybe it will come, but I think it will slow down a little now because investors are looking to all kinds of new markets. And these language models are not focused on, let's say, idea generation, or at least not in our sector. Obviously, in translations and in helping situation with, I mentioned the example with the blind guy before, but there is all kinds of scenarios, and in healthcare and in teaching. Teaching is so interesting with these tools. And in healthcare is a huge sector. There is so many money there. And integration in the people's private zone, where you can use it for translation or guidance or mental health or sleep issues or, every part of the private life. I think that's more a target for the investors and this tech in the coming years. I can't see this tech being extremely large in architecture. The numbers just aren't there yet, and I can't see them go up very much from this stage, because architecture, and that's good for us architects and Illustrator that illustrates architecture. Architecture is, to put in simple terms, too complicated for this technology to handle. It really just is. There is communication. There is the thought process that leads up to a project and why it looks like it looks. It is always centered around reality. So that'll be a precise context. It'll have a precise assignment, a precise room program, a very precise number of square meters. And as all projects, it's a workflow which integrate communication with the client and evolving the design together. That's a part where these image generators and maybe future AI can come in handy at some specific points where the AI is focused and developed for that specific point. And you can already do some of that in ChatGPT here. You can make some chatbots that are focused on, let's say, logo design, where the language model is set up in a way that it asks, what logo do you want, blah, blah, blah. And it's integrated with DALL-E in a specific way that is enhanced or better for logo design and so forth. So I think that's the way this tech will go. Just as we've seen with CAD tools, you use this CAD tool to track a video, you use this CAD tool to develop the model, you use this CAD tool or BIM tool to have a model reference for all your co-operations in that process, so you can take out data about square meters and installations and how many, windows and all that. So it's just a fragmented piece of different tools in the architect's toolbox, where there are oftentimes specialists in every part of it. For a long time, and in the coming years it'll be exactly the same. You have, for example, a specialist could be ArchViz, as I have done many years, but it could be any kind of profession, and then you just outsource that specialty. And a lot of companies are taking some of the more, let's say, core functions or specialities into their own space to be able to have it as more like a process. And for example, that's exactly how I work now. I would say, compared from, let's say, 10 or 12 or 15 years ago, where it's much more a product I sell, for example. Now it's more an integration in a process. Oftentimes I'm integrated into the team for the last, let's say, month or 2 weeks, or maybe even a little more, where we try to, both sell the project, and as we've talked about in previous videos, there's both a component of concept development and concept refinement in that, what content we are showing that I'm integrated in, and the final project, how do we present that most effectively? So that whole integration of, let's say, typical ArchViz artist like me, which has an architectural background, the integration into the future for us is, I would say, more like co-developers or co-architects. And we are coupled in, we're put in the team in various stages of project development, just as engineers are when they are ready with the concept, that they have some questions with engineers. How much does this weigh? Do we have to scale up the columns and the bearing systems and so forth? And with smoke and fire, and there's all kinds of specialty. Architecture is so complicated, so that the idea that some AI will take over it all is absolutely unrealistic in the next many years. It's too complicated. And you can see just this process here it's the same feeling that we had in MidJourney, where at some point you just release these tools and then you rely on common sense, and I would say it sounds strange, but old school design principles. But it's not old school, it's just universally learned skills about form and function and integration in context and materials, and the architecture is so complicated. So you architects don't have to be afraid of this technology in any way, shape or form. And not ArchViz artists also, because I would say I've worked professionally with my own company for 15 years with this. And my workflow is, let's say, it has always evolved with the technology, different programs and so forth, and integration with that, the communication, how I integrate in a team and when I do it and what the team can get out of me. And as of for now, I would say the last project I made in Norway, it was a big school, and I make a lot of schools, and I worked, let's say, 6 to 7 weeks on that project in the final stages, because it was a competition, and it's oftentimes done as a 2-part competition where you make something and then, the jury and the authorities picks these 5 companies and say, okay, you go to the final. So we were lucky and get picked. So I follow that process with that company, but they don't use me all the time. They just use me in those pockets of intense, project development phase where we have to push the project. We have to develop the project or refine it or sharpen it and then present it and sell it to win the competition. And in that process, let's say those 7 weeks, I worked on that project, I would say I used max 1% with AI tools. Max 1%. It's very, very strange for me to hear all this AI hype. All kinds of architects are saying, oh, we are sweating about our jobs. Will we lose our jobs? And is our function as an architect over and so forth? And it's not. It's just a new tool. It's way too complicated. And will it integrate more over time? Yes, of course. Yes, of course. Just as, we have this CAD tool now, and then, 5 years later, you can do it much faster than this and this. And it's just an expansion of the architect's toolbox to do exactly what we've always done, make the best possible building and try to sell it in competition with other architectural companies at the time the assignment was given. 100 years ago, we could make this. Now we can make this. In 100 years, we can make this. And the process is too complicated that one AI can overtake that whole process. I used, as I said, I would say about 1% of the time with AI tools in that project. And that was over 7 weeks. But also the tech is there where it's more in the, I would say, concept development phase or the idea generation phase, as we already have seen in MidJourney and so forth. And you can see here, I just tried to remove all the people, as we spoke about here, make a new picture based off this picture here. And it's just, if nothing else, it's just a laugh. Okay, here it's a little bit better. This looks a little bit like Stephen Hall, I would say, this architecture, but it's again residential here. It's very incoherent. Maybe this is okay, but this is, I wouldn't say good in any way, shape, or form. Again, the dino down here. If nothing else, we can laugh a little bit. Here I just pasted the assignment again because it went off the rails. It's living in its own AI world here, I think. So it comes up with this. I think this is a good picture. It's very interesting. Starting to do something very interesting down here. It's not only a great atmosphere, a great render down here. It handles that very well. This is an architectural concept that reminded me about Stephen Hall, which is quite cool. So much, much better. And here again, make it look like it was built by big Bjarke Ingels group, and it made this. And that's not Bjarke Ingels design this, I would say. And I feel MidJourney is much better at this. We have this resource called MidLibrary here, where we use it only for MidJourney, but in the architects category, we can see all kinds of categories. And we've been into some of them, Jean Nouvel, Daniel Libeskind, Bjarke Ingels, and there is obviously many, many more, Calatrava, and he's also a very unique designing architect, I would say, and so forth. And it's not my perception that ChatGPT and integration with DALL-E can do anything that comes close to MidJourney in terms of design variety or design iterations. The concept or design is incoherent, make it homogeneous design concept with different buildings, and it made this. And okay, it's more coherent, harmonious. I wouldn't call it very interesting. I write here, it's too organic, one design concept, sharper edges on the buildings, more separate buildings, and it made this, and we're just back to square one again. It's the same picture more or less as the first picture, this picture here, and then this picture up here. So we've not been moving. This is the same boxy design. But it's still a good render, and I think this is somewhat interesting. You can maybe have an auditorium here, and the park is interesting and so forth. This looks somewhat interesting down here. By far the best is still too regular, too boxy, and make it more like Daniel Libeskind and still coherent. And it made this, and this is not Daniel Libeskind. If it's anything, it's more Stephen Hall, and that wasn't what I would liked here. And here I write, it doesn't look like a university, more like a bank with integrated shopping street. This is the shopping street, and this is the bank. This is the bank. It's just a bank district, this. And it made this. And I think this is actually quite good. I think it's, again, too residential. It doesn't look like a university, but the render starts to deliver some inspirations about material. The contrast between the darker brown here and the white buildings there in this dusk kind of lighting with the lights in the first level here and then more closed design over there, I think is good. To have a park between is also good. This is a strange building. You would never build a building like this for a university. It looks like some residential in China or something like that. It's a good building, but I don't think it looks like a university. But I like the render. Wow, it's easily the best. The buildings / tower look like residential, make it look like a university building with auditoriums and so forth. And it made this. I don't know, this again, I don't think the design from this to this is different really. It's the same kind of idea. It's still too residential, I would say. So I said, no, you changed the whole picture. Oh, yeah, well, it changed not only the central building here, it changed the whole picture. As you see here, the foreground, like the foreground here and here, that's cool. But it changed the whole picture, which is annoying. So you change the whole picture back to the last one, keep all but the central building, make the central building look like a university building with auditoriums and so forth. And it made this, which was, I mean, somewhat comparable to this. But if you look over here, it's not the same. It's a redesign. So the only thing I asked ChatGPT was to change the central building, nothing else. And it changed the whole picture. So again, it's just, I mean, come on. Again, it looks like residential, make it a university campus, and then it make this. We're back to SimCity here. Yeah, and I just stopped. This was too annoying. So this was my initial tour through ChatGPT's integration with DALL-E. So let's jump into MidJourney and see where MidJourney 6.0 is right now. So to start a fair place here, we jump into the Discord server. I've made a video about how to join the Discord, make a Discord account, and then you go into MidJourney, you integrate your MidJourney, you just join the beta, and then you integrate it with your Discord. So look back in previous videos to see if you want to use this MidJourney. But this is the latest version 6.0. And to get a fair comparison where the latest version of MidJourney is right now, as of per May 2024, I just wrote exactly the same prompt as we did in ChatGPT, so that we just copied the whole small university campus assignment as we've been working with in the previous videos, and see what it comes up with. And this is the picture. So already here, I feel that the 4 iterations we are getting from MidJourney is much better. The variety or the iterations are different. They are different in perspective. And the idea in an image idea generation tool that you get different iterations very close and comparable in that sense is the way to do it. So I think that's very good here. That's where MidJourney is very, very strong. And obviously this is by far the most interesting picture. This is full of atmosphere, and you have this warm light, and it's an evening situation, and you have this kind of Copenhagen kind of feel to it. And these buildings are so much more a university. I mean, this is just a university facade, a modern university facade as I see it. An integration with some plants and some lush green spaces just outside, with integration somewhat into the facade here. It's just a very, very good picture. These are somewhat unusable, I would say. So that's in that sense a little bit disappointing. So here again, I just took variations of one. So that's variations of this. I pressed here. So just pasted the whole text in again. MidJourney handles that itself. You don't have to do that, but you can change in the prompt if you just want variations of this. And then, for example, in addition to variations, make it a different aspect ratio or something like that. So you can add to the prompt also. And it got these, and these are just amazing. These are so good pictures, so inspirational, so full of color, atmosphere. There's the autumn theme. It's an evening situation. You get the Copenhagen vibe. It's a generic context, but it is a context in which it places the buildings that reminds us of Copenhagen. So these are very, very impressive. I've said this before about MidJourney. It's extreme with MidJourney. MidJourney is a tool that is king of the hill right now in terms of generating ideas rendered out in a high quality. No doubt. These are very, very interesting. This is a contemporary modern university facade with, let's say, library functions or study functions behind, in a concept that you can very, very easily integrate all kinds of screens and ventilation systems and technical installations into, with decks that looks very much more realistic, with a hanged facade, glass facade. You can even make this facade a double facade, so you have all kinds of ventilations ideas in the double facade there. And even the light bleeds out on this little space in front, and they are kind of the same design. There's something different here. This is not a good building there, but for example, this picture over here is just, it's amazing. It's amazing. It really, really is. And it's not because it's hyper realistic photo from reality. It's just a very inspiring render of the idea of the university. This very welcoming facade here with light, and it's very warm and it's very friendly. At the same time, it's a big house with a lot of square meters, and it's a functional house. And that's actually quite hard for an architect to make. I would say that's one of the challenges for modern architects, to make large projects that still feels welcoming and not dominating in the urban cityscape. That's really a skill that not every architect has, I would say. And this picture reminded me of a situation where it's a success. This facade over here is absolutely amazing. It's so good. Also, these pictures down here are good. I would say the space between the buildings here, I can really see a evolution in MidJourney from the versions that we developed our university project in the prior videos, and till now, the version 6. I'm so impressed. It is really so impressive. This context over here is not that great. This looks strange. This more looks like, I would say, DALL-E here. But this is a totally different level. So interesting. Maybe we can integrate some light theme in the ground here to lighten it a little bit. So we have this, I don't know, contemporary beams of light in the context that lights up the trees or something like that. But that could be made in Photoshop to enhance this concept here. But I would say this is more or less a concept as an architect. When you've just got this assignment and you have to make 20,000 square meters, you can go this route, follow this design principles, and integrate with facade and cross the finish line with a good project probably. And you haven't exceeded the budget of such a competition here, because you can actually make a house like this very functional and integrate a lot of efficient square meters at the more or less any site or any context you work in. So absolutely impressive. I would say this is the second picture. We get this in 2 pictures. That's insane. I've said it before, but I really think MidJourney is the absolute king of the hill in idea generation. It's very interesting what MidJourney does. It has all the problems that we have talked about already with this is non-concise, non-concrete, unspecific architecture in a non-existing generic context with no room program and so forth. We've been over all these points, and you can't really change the angle, and it's very hard to take. For example, if MidJourney was integrated with ChatGPT, you can say, okay, we like this picture. So we just, in a conversational tone, say we like the upper right hand picture. We would like to see a aerial render of that. Impossible. And that's, again, you have a tool which is absolutely amazing. And then you write the next prompt, which is logical for most architects and humans, I would say, to see, we like this, let's have an aerial render of this concept so we can discuss it in a broader sense. Not possible. And that's exactly where this technology still is. There comes a time where you just have to take this tool and let it rest, and then work with classical architectural skills again. Okay, so the next thing I did was that I took this picture, I screen dumped it in Photoshop, I cropped this and I loaded this, and then I tried to say imagine this and then paste the link for this into this, just made by architect Daniel Libeskind, because I think this is very good, but it looks like something, I don't know, Jean Nouvel or some. It's not Daniel Libeskind architecture, this. And we get this. That's exactly what I mean. It's what? And that's where ChatGPT 4.0 with integration to DALL-E just shines over this. MidJourney is strange to communicate with in a logical way. It's like a little super intelligent child that can do everything, you just don't know how to communicate with it. It's impossible. Or at least you have to take an education to communicate with this extremely intelligent child. Okay, so we went on to this. This is iterations of the actual program again. I just made variations of the prompt of the picture we liked up there, but I added aspect ratio 16.9, and then I think I took stylize 800, something like that. And we got these, and these are just amazing again. It's absolutely crazy renders. These are so good. I really love them. It looks like pictures from an artist that's just painted architectural visualization his whole life. But again, you can't use them for anything in a real world assignment or context. It's absolutely impossible other than inspiration, as we've said 1,000 times now. This down here, or this, yeah, or this is also, all four are just great pictures. And it looks like Copenhagen. You got this warm feel. You want to stay here. This is a space that as a human being, you want to sit here for 10 minutes if it's warm enough in Copenhagen and there's no wind. So, like 3 weeks in a year or something like that, you want to stay here. But you want to stay here. The picture tells you that story, that you want to stay here in this room outside the university facade here. I think I like the facade again here. It's more simple. We have this Danish architect called Arne Jacobsen, which is a icon in Denmark. He has made all kinds of prominent building in, I would say, especially Copenhagen. And so integration in these brown colors that, respect the more brownish brick residential structure of Copenhagen into a modern building that also have a reference to Arne Jacobsen is just a really respectful and intelligent way to attack a university in Copenhagen also. Obviously, the first assignment, we answered it quite differently, but that could be if I wanted to make a university more. I think we should make a totally different assignment, the next assignment we make, and see where the workflow is right now and where the tools for an architectural workflow is right now. But if we should make a new university, I would more or less, I think, try to find a more stylish, more classical, more historically bound design concept that integrates well in the Copenhagen urban architecture with references to one of the big Danish old architects, Arne Jacobsen. And the spaces in between buildings, this is amazing. I think also this is amazing. This is this low plant life we have in Scandinavia that is very interesting interpretation from MidJourney, and it's very well thought of by MidJourney to integrate, low Scandinavian plants like that without, being prompted specifically about that. Also here, a great space, good trees. That's a typical trick in ArchViz to blend trees down a little bit to have this more lush kind of feel to the pictures without screening off important stories in the picture. For example, this facade over here. It was introduced by these classical French ArchViz companies like Luxigon Art Factory, which is amazing artists that really pushed the boundaries of architectural development. And it's integrated, at least in style here, with the trees. I think the humans in MidJourney they're very good down here. I think humans in this picture down here is more or less perfect. I would maybe have a situation here where the focus is drawn to and you can see yourself having a good time here, very close to the university, and maybe some integration between outside and inside. Because that's a human story that's very important when you are walking around in especially big cities, that the building is not threatening and you are invited and you can see yourself having a good time around these buildings and in these urban spaces. But I think one of the big problems right now with integrations of people in MidJourney is that we've made a previous video about people, and I will make more videos in the future about exactly people integration in visualization and stills, because I think it's very difficult and I think there's very few that master it. I think it's one of the aspects in architectural visualization I work on more than most people think I work in it. And it's a long discussion with the clients about the people and the story that the people tells in the pictures. And MidJourney does not handle that. For example, let's say we've just discussed what we would like to add in this picture. Is it possible to prompt it with that? And not in any way. So it's very, if we, tighten our conclusion a little bit about MidJourney, it's absolutely fantastic renders, but it's very, very hard to model them into something more precise that you want. And obviously this picture, you can't, again, use it for anything. You have to visualize and render your own pictures still. And MidJourney will, I wouldn't say probably never be able to do that, but you will have to integrate MidJourney in a form of plugin, for example, in SketchUp or Studio Max or where you work. And that is exactly what you can do in some regard with Chrome AI. But I've toyed around with it quite a lot, and it's not good. It's, I wouldn't say hopelessly lost or incapable of anything, but all these videos you see out there with, let's say, Chrome AI being the one tool we architects have to have, and then we can solve every assignment. I think it says more about the content creator than anything else, because Chrome AI is not the one tool we have to use. Chrome AI is a promising tool where the idea is a good idea, but it's absolutely unusable with a real world assignment. It's too unprecise. It's too complicated to make architecture. I don't know which architect could render their projects with Chrome AI and be happy. I really cannot see that. But maybe, again, the evolution of these, let's say, integrated pieces of AI into real rendering software, like, let's say, Studio Max or SketchUp or Rhino or Revit or what have we, is a possibility. And it's interesting. It really is interesting. And what it all boils down to, are you as an artist or architect or designer able to see what good design is? What good colors are, what a good composition is, tell a good story, being able to communicate with other human beings about the project, change the project, let it go into a workflow where you have communication alongside the project rather than, let's say, a generic end result like we are seeing here. As impressive as this is, it's only the start, absolutely not the finish. And as an ArchViz specialist, I would say that my most important skill would be to evaluate what I see with my eye. AI does not do that. They just run very, very, very fast. It's just like an absolute spoiled child running around with an IQ of 1600. And that's funny, and it can make some extreme results, but you also have to control it and push a picture, in this case, in a direction that is desirable. So already now, the architect, we've spoken about this before, but already now the role of the architect and the designer and the illustrator and the artist is much more a evaluating role. And obviously, as it has always been, AI is a tool that will push overall quality up and maybe speed some things up also. But sometimes also, if you have more tools, it will slow the process because there is more possibilities. But I'm very sure that the quality of the architectural projects will be influenced by this technology. We will get more idea iterations before we start modeling and designing the project. And that's very, very good. So I think the process as it is right now is exactly the same. It's just pushed the limit of the quality. And maybe, as I've seen it, it's not fast to make, for example, architectural visualizations with this technology. It really isn't faster. The bar is just higher. That's what is happening. And that's what's happened all the 20 or 25 years I've worked with this. I would say the time spent on a project visualizing, let's say, for example, one picture. The process of visualizing one picture with iterations and discussions and humans and lighting and back and forth and let's try this and this is important and what time is it, and that whole thing is exactly the same. But the bar is pushed up and up and up and up and up and up. And we use more and more resources and time to present the exact architecture, the exact idea. And we push one picture rather than, let's say, 5 bad pictures and make a lot of adjustments to that. And with AI tools like this, I would say there is more pressure on the good architectural concept and the good architectural renders now that there are before. So that's how I feel it. You have to, as an architect and as an ArchViz illustrator, use more time now than for, let's say, 5 years ago. It's more difficult now. The bar is higher. You have to use more time because everyone have seen MidJourney now. Everybody have seen Avatar 2 now. But you have to remember the team in Avatar, that's, I don't know, 300 CG artists in 3 years or something like that. They've worked day and night. And then when we make illustrations, people can't understand why you can use, I don't know, 20 hours or 30 hours on a picture, whereas the picture is in a process also. That's strange for me, but the bar is just being pushed up and up and up and up with visualizations and renders. And if you just think this is an interesting, let's say, aspect of architecture, and you have not illustrated, have not handled these things more analog or more with your own hands, and just think you can run in and use Chrome AI or MidJourney or something and solve a real world assignment, you're absolutely wrong. The architectural project is vastly complicated. It's not possible in any way of just getting automated results with AI. And when you see this, that's where AI cheats you. So the unwise would say, but if you can do this in 60 seconds, why are you using so much time on visualizations? And they don't understand anything. It's because it's a process. It's because this is nothing more than a fancy picture. It has nothing to do with a real architecture. The sun is absolutely generic. The context is generic. There's no model, there's no reference. We can't change anything. We can't make animations or make another still for the other side or anything like that. It's even very hard to get a high resolution. You can't change people. You can't change the architecture. You can't get a model. We've talked about this 100 times, but there is this feeling that architects' jobs are in danger. I think it's the exact opposite. Never has there in the history of the architectural toolbox been more a need for a proficient brain and humans to evaluate what is good and what is just crap. And to push, let's say, an extremely interesting visualization like this into a real project. That's actually quite hard. So I see totally different on these things than a large group of very frightened architects and designers and artists. Money will at some point leave our sector because architecture and art is not where the money is. That's how it is, and it's obviously sad for all us architects, but most architects and designers and artists are just, we just have to design. We just have to be artists. It's a calling more than it is. Let's hope we can be rich on this. It's not an interest for many artists anyway. We just like to really work with it. It's the food for our souls. And again, never have I seen a more pressing situation where artists and good artists and architects that know what they are doing are handling this. Because you have this IQ 1600 child. If you have no parents to control that, or if you have another 1600 IQ child controlling a 1600 ADHD child, making these, you will never get to the finish line with an architectural project, not in any way. But it is hard when you see it from outside. Everybody is saying, okay, shit, our jobs is getting in danger now. We humans are replaceable, both in concept development, in illustration, in drawing of actual technical drawings of this, in the building process in a few years with building robots. But no, it's actually the other way around. Never has there been more need for a parent to control all this power. And that's the architect and the artist that can push this into something usable in the real world, not just fancy pictures. Yeah, after that rant, I went on, and actually here I tried to have some overviews, and you can see that's exactly the point we've just talked about. We have some aerials here that they're not usable, and they have absolutely nothing to do with this great project. And it's just, again, this child that's able to do anything, but it's just absolutely all over the place. Again here, a little bit better. This is the same lighting at least, but another project. Again, here the context is absolutely off, and this is, what is this? This is just residential. I mean, what? And here, what is this? It's not Daniel Libeskind, and it's four totally different pictures. And I mean, this is iteration that sprung out of a process I was working with here, and you get totally derailed here. I mean, what? That's the problem with this technology here. It's so hard to control in a decent and easy manner. So here I attacked it in a different way. Small University Campus by Daniel Libeskind, very, very simple and small prompt, and got these, which are more, I would say, photorealistic rather than the absolutely astonishing pictures here. These are more boring, but again, the design was more like we anticipated with Daniel Libeskind. This is very realistic. This is almost, yeah, that's just a photo. This is a little more render. And you don't want to present your architecture like this, because an architectural visualization is a vision, a promise, a dream, an idea of unbuilt architecture. It's a picture all the builders can go around building the house the next 5 years and look, okay, this is the vision. So I think these pictures are not interesting. And then I made this. This is a little bit more interesting, especially this up here. That's so cool. Try to imagine sitting up here on this little cafe. That could be so cool. Again, really photorealistic. Okay, so I tried to take this one, which I thought was the best, and blend with this one here, and got these, which is interesting. The blend function in MidJourney is interesting because you can blend kind of concepts and get very interesting ideas. These are kind of, an integration of a photorealistic picture or render of actual architecture and a dreamy visualization, which is a very interesting blend. Very interesting, because they are, if you see them more like this, if you squint your eyes, they're kind of realistic in a way. And then if you zoom in, they are still this dreamy kind of style. That's very interesting, I think. So that's more an art discussion. And again, in comparison with ChatGPT 4.0 and DALL-E, MidJourney can do and handle things DALL-E and ChatGPT are not even close handling. MidJourney is such an inspiration and quality lift from DALL-E right now. The only thing that I see ChatGPT with integration of DALL-E has over MidJourney right now is the more conversational control of the image generating process. That's interesting, and that's the approach I think has the most future potential for these companies, because prompt writing and controlling these AI tools, for example, MidJourney, that changes all the time with version 6 and version, 13 in a couple of years, will at some point be out of reach, I think, for the ordinary architect. So again, that's just another specialty, I guess. Just as we have had, the engineer and the technical drawers and the ArchViz artist and so forth, and the architect that's more, the phone architect that's calling all these companies to deliver the cheapest glass and so forth. There are all kinds of specialities, and that could be one, an architectural prompt writer or something like that, because it's getting more and more complicated, this. And on the big architectural companies, there are many people, dived into this, and sections of their company that look into this and try to control it, because it's very, very hard to control and use for anything concrete and actually usable in a real world context. And these are, again, they are just very, very good ideas. And they are, that's another thing MidJourney is good at. It's kind of the same concept. It's kind of the same way to attack a piece of architecture, but it's different iterations. I'm very, very impressed about that, because you saw nothing like that in DALL-E. That was SimCity 2000, and it's light years in front specifically about that. Again, here, that's a blend of this picture, and then I think this one. I thought this was the best and this was the best, so I blended those two. That's, again, what MidJourney is so good at. This is just, look at this picture. That's amazing. That's just Hogwarts in a blend with contemporary Daniel Libeskind kind of modern architecture. It's an absolutely amazing picture. It's amazing that you can do something like this. This looks like Tivoli in Copenhagen. This looked like let's say a hotel in Tivoli in Copenhagen. Yeah, MidJourney is incredible to make these blends and iterations of extremely interesting pictures. That derails a discussion about when people that don't know anything about the art process or the illustration process or the architectural concept development process, and they see this, and then they see a real project, a visualization of a real project, and they are totally not impressed. That's what this technology also do, because people think they can make these themselves, and they can't. It's just a prompt, it's just a code or algorithm that takes pre-rendered projects and concepts and blends them and makes these. So in that regard, it's a very deceiving technology, this. It's not an honest technology in that regard. It's just idea generation on steroids, but only usable for idea generation. And it is becoming harder and harder for architects and artists and ArchViz artists to impress with their skills. And if this technology falls, we can rise again and see what we have used 40 years of our lives, gaining a skill in art and art illustrations and concept development and, the creative process, creating architecture, creating space, presenting space, selling projects. It's a skill set that is learned over 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And with this, when layman's people or people that don't know anything about the process behind projects see these and think they can create it themselves, which they can't. But when they see real world concept, they are absolutely unimpressed. That's very hard for us architects. And when we make renders, people are kind of like unimpressed no matter what. You can say, but well, then use MidJourney to present your project. Oh yeah, I will do that. And then 2 days later, oh, it's you again. Oh, it's impossible to use MidJourney for making concrete, precise real-world renders of a real-world project. Yeah, I could have told you that. And it'll never be possible. Or not never, but yeah, I would say it will never be possible, actually. And the reason is that the next step of this technology would be an integration of AI, the level of AI MidJourney presents us with here in terms of image generation, with integration with concise and specific architectural drawing tools, like, for example, Revit, SketchUp, 3D Studio Max, so forth, Rhino. And when that happens, you need an expert to not only control it, because it will be complicated. It will be complicated. And you have to have an expert to control it, because something that is very complicated in a stressful situation, which every architectural project, more or less every architectural project is, because of deadlines and the high bar, as we talked about earlier, you have to have a very proficient expert to handle these very powerful tools under such a pressure, with so many people involved and so many money on the line. So I'm only seeing this technology going one way, and that is into expertise, just as you have seen over the last 20 or 40 years, not the other way around. We maybe even need more of people like me and architects, because it's already now actually quite complicated to really use this for anything. So that's the way I think it will go. But back to the point about impressing people. It's very hard for architects to impress their clients with their renders and their project, because the bar is extremely high, because everyone and their mother have seen extremely exciting and interesting concepts in extreme presentations like these. Nobody is impressed anymore because of the technology, but it's only to laymen, it's only to the people that don't know the process, that don't know that there is a very, very large distinction between a real project and an absolutely generic picture of something that doesn't exist, where the AI has absolutely free will and there's no boundaries or space program or assignment or anything. It's just do whatever. And there's all kinds of little discussions in the detail. The devil lies in the detail. Oftentimes, when you are just visualizing a project, you have to match a picture, and it's very important that it's matched correctly and to evaluate it correctly. And in terms of lore and heights and sun directions and reflections, and so it has to be correct. And you can say, but AI can handle that in a couple of years. Yes, maybe. But the shell within the AI works to handle such a task. It's a program just like, I don't know, Studio Max or Revit, where it's complicated. Just as it is right now to set up all the textures, the lighting, the materials, the perspective, modeling the project correct, iterations of different, let's say, changes to the design concept and so forth. It's a complicated process, and the program that can control all this power, I have to have a parent, as we've spoken about, to control that, an expert in handling a tool like this under pressure, and a brain that is trained over years and years and years of seeing projects and evaluating and have an idea of which way to push a project in the right directions in terms of diagrams or concepts, ideas, and a grander design idea in this project. Why are we doing why we do? MidJourney and AI will probably never have a clue about that. It'll always be this, okay, it'll be a child with growing IQ to, the end of time, but it's still this uncontrolled, kind of crazy, intelligent kid running around. Okay, really, I wanted this design concept down here. You remember this picture from earlier? I thought it was so great. And there's a function in version 6 where you can / describe, and then you paste the picture. And then MidJourney tries to take that picture and make, it's kind of the reverse process where MidJourney does not make the picture, but makes the text that could have made the picture. So it comes up with 4 iterations of text, and I just took one of those text and pasted it into so that we would get similar results, and it gave us this, which is just, that's the nail on the head in this video. That's exactly my point all throughout the video. It does not know what it's doing. It's just an absolutely super intelligent child running wild around. Absolutely unusable. Again here, this was actually good. What did I do there? Okay, I just took another prompt from up here and got these. They have some relations, I would say, with this. So maybe the first text was just off. But anyhow, these pictures was very, very inspiring. I think this picture up here is amazing. It looks like a more heavy kind of form language on top of a more transparent first or second level glass facade underneath is a cool theme. And even the integration of the landscape plan into the architecture is very well done here. It integrates well. It's the same form and design language. I really like that. That's some of the things I always look on when I evaluating architectural projects and try to push them in a certain direction or sharpen them so that the concept stands out more clearly, so that we make good architecture and good presentation of that architecture to eventually and hopefully sell the project. That's more or less my skill, I would say, summed up. But this project is absolutely amazing. Obviously, the context is off, but it doesn't matter because we can't use the context for anything anyway. So here I made, and that's quite interesting. That's also a new feature I haven't seen yet. If we take this picture, this is an upscale of this picture here. And as you can see, this is actual resolution. So if I flip between these, it's the same resolution. And if we go into Photoshop, it is this picture here. So if we go into image resolution, you can see it's 1471 and 815 here. So that's not impressive. This is the actual resolution pixel by pixel on my screen. So if you go into MidJourney again, we go down here and you use the upscale subtle. You can also use the upscale creative, but I started with the upscale subtle there and we got this. And this is actually an upscale, as you can see. This is actual pixels. If we jump into Photoshop, it is this picture here. So compared to this, if we just maximize this, and you can see, I don't know, you can see it on your screen here, but if you zoom in a little bit, you can start to see the pixelation and the mosaic by the JPEG compression start to show. Also here, it's very easy to see up here, I would say. Compared to this, are you ready? This. You can see there's a large difference in the upscale capabilities of MidJourney 6 from prior versions, I would say. This is very impressive. This resolution is nearly 3000 by 1600. So that's really impressive. That's a big upgrade from the previous versions. and we jump back into Discord server. I made some other iterations here. I wasn't that impressed by this. I took very strong, so they make strong variations, so to speak. So variations that are far apart from the initial input. And this is the pictures. They're very good. And something they get much more right is actually the scale. I actually think these are less than 20,000, but it's nice to see that it also can make too small of a project. It's always these extremely large projects. Again, MidJourney is just absolutely superior compared to DALL-E and ChatGPT 4.0 integration in terms of presenting us with different iterations of architectural design concepts and ideas. It's light years ahead. For example, see, again, this is a very, very clear concept, and it even has some steps down here. It has some, I wouldn't say the landscape plan is integrated very well here. I think it's much better here, if you can see here. But anyway, there's so much more concept, idea, depth to the pictures in MidJourney, and the renders is obviously much, much better. This is nowhere near SimCity 2000 level. This is super, super nice renders. And then this is, again, we've talked about in prior projects where MidJourney kind of, I would say, have some, not problems, but difficulties where it starts to, as an architect, I would say these design concepts are not interesting as I see. Maybe this is okay. Maybe this is okay. But for example, this one, this is a good example of what I mean. This concept up here is just all over the place. What's the idea here? Can you say the idea in, let's say, a couple of sentences up here? Nope. And the integration of the landscape plan is just not there. It's a good render. It's not interesting architecture. It's the same here. It's better down here. I think this is the best here, but a little strange, I would say, again, a little strange landscape plan. And that's a whole discussion again. We've had this discussion in some pieces before, I would say, but integration of landscape planning and architecture, the actual house, the building, and the plan around the house, the landscape plan. That intersection is very, very interesting. Many architects, at least in Scandinavia, where I work most of the time, that integration is not there, I would say, oftentimes. It's like, the architects design their concepts in-house and in their company, and then the landscape architect designs their concept in another room or another company. And then oftentimes my role is to come in and try to stitch it all together and try to refine the project. And actually sometimes to get the architect and the landscape architect to communicate better. I just say it like it is. It's not coherent. It doesn't make any sense to make a landscape plan with these functions here just outside the cafe windows, for example. And sometimes it is actually that simple. There are too little communication between two very, I would say, professions that should be very coherent. And that's another example of why architecture is so complicated. It's, what's the word in English? It's very ignorant to say that in a couple of years there will be no architects. Or unintelligent, because then you don't know how complicated an architectural project and process is. It's absolutely unrealistic to say that, and it just tells you that you don't know anything about anything in the sector, if you think that. It's more correct to say that AI is a new tool in our ever-evolving toolbox, and it's very interesting. That's correct to say. That's what it is right now. It's a new tool. So we moved on to the last picture now that we will end with this. So I used a creative redo upscale here to get a large picture of the iteration I thought was best. And that was this iteration up here. I thought that was very interesting. So I upscaled it, and then I made a creative upscale here, redo upscale creative, and got this. So this pictures, I think it's some of the best concept idea pictures I've seen in MidJourney to date. And this is where MidJourney is really, really, really so strong. That's where it shines over every other star in the AI image generating field right now. Obviously, in the following videos, we can have a look on, for example, Stable Diffusion, which is a free version. There was one of you guys in the comments, I think it was Dr. Carl Woods, comment that we could take a look on Stable Diffusion. So let's do that. Let's see what Stable Diffusion is able to produce compared to DALL-E integration with ChatGPT and MidJourney. Let's make a comparison there, because as of right now, it's very clearly what MidJourney is able to and what it's not able to, and what ChatGPT with the integration with DALL-E is not able to. That's very, very clear. But also that ChatGPT with the integration with DALL-E are handling the communication between the human and the AI that generates the images much better than MidJourney. So if it was a battle, I think ChatGPT and DALL-E would win on this parameters, but maybe this parameters alone, I would say, as of right now. But I will say, if OpenAI is able to, so to speak, crack the code in a way that MidJourney is doing, and I think they are years behind. But obviously, we know with AI, it suddenly just goes very, very fast. So let's see what OpenAI is able to push, let's say, these SimCity screen dumps to what MidJourney can produce and what we're looking at right now in, let's say, a year or so. I think it could be a very, very interesting tool to have a more serious look on as a architectural tool that we can actually use for something useful. We will probably still have MidJourney. I think MidJourney could still evolve. If I was MidJourney, I would try to evolve the way we communicate with MidJourney more like we communicate with DALL-E via OpenAI's ChatGPT. That would be the conclusion right now, as I see it. But we took this picture. I think this is a great picture. If we go into Photoshop, that's the picture there. So that's just absolutely great. Obviously, we have all these very powerful, that's also AI tools we have in Photoshop now. For example, the remove tool here. If we just have to sketch a little bit on this and try to make it a picture that we can use for a form of, let's say, concept presentation. I just use the remove tool there to remove some of those elements that I'm not very happy with. So this. Okay, so that's actually an interesting correction it made there, because if you see here, it made the correction so that this almost looked like a beach-like area where more concrete kind of, hard material integrates and run into. That's just already there. Such a good idea. And you just saw me idea generate with using the remove tool, and suddenly we have this idea of a beach over here. So it's a great tool. We talked a bit about the integration with the landscape plan here into the building there. And then all of a sudden, if we take the brush tool, you can see this more organic kind of design here is not something I like. I would like this to be more, let's say, fragmented, just like the other concepts like that, something like that. We could obviously start to design on that. We just do it very, very fast here. Yeah, so this is a little bit better. You obviously have to do the same here. So we can just take this portion here of the picture and just copy it. Yeah, something like this. This is just very fast, obviously, but yeah, the concept here is very, very clear. In a very short amount of time, with integration, obviously, of MidJourney and Photoshop, we can have a concept picture for a project that is very interesting, that we can work on, where both the landscape plan and the architecture is integrated in one coherent form language that is able to answer a room program in a functional and aesthetic way, and has a distinct architectural concept that is readable and is very easy to interpret very fast. And there is even here, for example, this could be a screen that is somewhat outside here, where you go in under and into a, shopping street, or if it was a university auditorium, so something like that, under this form language up over. It's just a very interesting way to differentiate the design with more open functions that is public accessible to more, let's say, closed functions like lecture halls or offices of academic personnel in the university, for example. An integration with, let's say, park area down here, where you can have integrated learning. We can even try a tool, for example, here, generate fill, and then just type learning situation, and then it'll render a form of idea about that down here. So this is the iterations. Yeah, for example, something like this. It's a way that you can, integrate in a fast way some ideas you have in Photoshop without doing actual, let's say, modeling, matching, render, and integration in a picture like this. Obviously also over here, let's just take a more sketchy tool like the lasso tool. That's an underrated tool in Photoshop. I just love that tool. So fast to use. For example, there, just type something like green park and then press enter. Yeah, for example, there. So it's not perfect in any way, but there's some more park integration behind the building there. So we have let's say, a more clear concept where we haven't got the trains here. We only have this road and we're trying to screen it with trees. And then the concept is kind of this plaza or this space here meeting the sharp form design already here that just fragments up into this house. That's a very, very cool theme with integration via the water there. So obviously the context is also off. Let's try to see if we can do anything about this. Let's type Copenhagen context skyline. Copenhagen skyline context and see what Photoshop is able to. And that's what I mean exactly with, let's say, AI image generating tools integrating into, for example, 3D Studio Max. We're seeing it already here with Adobe, where the remove tool, and it's not perfect, but this, let's call it generative AI, can integrate some form of AI element and image generation on parts of the picture. And it even gives us some different iterations. I think maybe, I don't know. I think this maybe is the best one. But that's a way you can have very, very fast idea generation using MidJourney and Photoshop or ChatGPT integration with DALL-E right now. And we'll obviously continue to explore this. And the next video, I think we will explore Stable Diffusion and see what Stable Diffusion brings to the table, because it's an interesting new time to be an architect. And I think it's a time where never has there been any more use for proficient architects that know what they are doing to control this technology. And you will experience with the first meeting with the enemy or with the first meeting of a real-time assignment that AI has not come to take our jobs, but has come to deliver more jobs and more specialities in our sector. We just have to adopt them and get proficient at them. And it's just a new time where things are changing a little bit, but not more than we've seen, let's say, from the pen and paper stage to the CAD stage of things, where things also change. So I think we don't have to be afraid or anything of this technology. It would be a waste of energy, and it's an exciting new time. So we just have to look forward to that. But okay, let's wrap the video up here, and I hope you enjoyed this more thorough look into the AI space just now with ChatGPT 4.0 and DALL-E integration in comparison with MidJourney, what they are able to and what they are not, and a more broader discussion about concept development using those two programs. Let me know in the comments if I've overseen anything and what you think about this, because one thing is what I see and say, another thing is what you think. So make a comment in the comment section and tell me what you think. As always, like, share, and subscribe on your way out, and I'll see you in the next one.